In the sweltering heat of a Texas January morning in 1941, the air at the Freeport plant hummed with the low roar of pumps and the sharp tang of saltwater mist. Workers in heavy aprons and goggles gathered around an electrolytic cell, their faces illuminated by the blinding glow of molten metal. At precisely 1292 degrees Fahrenheit, the first ingot of magnesium, silvery white and pure, poured into an iron mold, solidifying into a symbol of American ingenuity. This wasn't just any metal, it was born from the sea itself, extracted from the vast Gulf of Mexico by the Dow Chemical Company. 11 months later, Pearl Harbor would plunge the United States into World War II, and this plant would become the backbone of Allied air power, producing 84% of America's magnesium supply in 1942 alone. Without it, the skies over Europe and the Pacific might have remained contested far longer, the war's toll even heavier. The tale of how Dow turned the ocean into a mine begins long before that fateful pour, rooted in the restless curiosity of chemists and the unforgiving demands of global conflict. Magnesium, the eighth most abundant element in Earth's crust, comprising about 2% of it, and the third most plentiful dissolved in seawater at around 1/300 parts per million, had always been elusive in its pure form. Its extreme reactivity meant it never appeared naturally as a metal always bound in compounds like carbonates, chlorides, or sulfates. Extracting it required not just chemistry, but immense energy, a challenge that had stumped scientists for centuries. The element's story traces back to the mid-18th century in Scotland, where chemist Joseph Black conducted experiments with magnesium carbonate in the 1750s, distinguishing it from calcium and laying the groundwork for its identification. By 1808, British chemist Humphrey Davy, building on Black's work, electrolyzed a mixture of magnesia and mercuric oxide, isolating what he initially called magnium, before renaming it magnesium. Though Davy couldn't produce it in pure metallic form, his breakthrough sparked interest. It wasn't until 1828 that French scientist Antoine Bussy succeeded reacting magnesium chloride with potassium to yield coherent magnesium metal. Bussy's method was a leap forward, but it remained a laboratory curiosity. Commercial viability arrived in 1852, when German chemist Robert Bunsen refined an electrolytic cell for fused anhydrous magnesium chloride, producing magnesium on a small scale. By 1886, Germany had launched the world's first industrial magnesium production at Aluminium und Magnesium Fabrik Hemmelingen, using a modified Bunsen cell to electrolyze molten carnallite. This gave Germany a near monopoly, producing the metal from mineral deposits like carnallite for over 3 decades. Magnesium's brilliant white flame made it ideal for pyrotechnics, and photography flash powders were common by the 1860s, but its true potential lay in its lightness at 1.74 grams per cubic centimeter. It was 2/3 the density of aluminum, the lightest structural metal available. As Europe hurtled toward war in 1914, magnesium's strategic value emerged. World War I transformed it from a niche material into a weapon. Star shells illuminating enemy trenches with eerie glows relied on magnesium's intense burn. Tracer bullets, flares, and incendiaries all demanded it. The British naval blockade severed Germany's exports, causing prices to skyrocket from 50 cents per pound pre-war to $2.75 per pound, a 450% surge. Across the Atlantic in Midland, Michigan, Herbert Henry Dow, founder of the Dow Chemical Company, established in 1897, saw opportunity. Herbert Dow was no stranger to innovation. Born in 1866 in Belleville, Ontario, he had grown up tinkering with chemistry, earning a degree from Case School of Applied Science in 1888. By the 1890s, he was extracting bromine from Michigan's ancient brine deposits, remnants of prehistoric seas trapped underground. These brines, rich in magnesium chloride, were already yielding bromine and chlorine through electrolysis. When the magnesium shortage hit in 1916, Dow pivoted. His team, after months of trial and error, adjusting cell designs for higher temperatures and battling corrosion, produced their first experimental ingot. It was modest, a small cake, but proof of concept. By 1918, Dow had sold 852 pounds of magnesium, almost entirely to the Allied war effort. The armistice in November 1918 brought peace but economic collapse for magnesium producers. Demand evaporated. Most American firms shuttered operations. By 1927, Dow was the sole U.S. survivor. Herbert Dow refused to quit, convinced magnesium's future extended beyond warfare. Its weight advantage, 1/3 lighter than aluminum with comparable strength, promised revolutions in transportation. He alloyed it with aluminum, zinc, and manganese, to create Dow Metal, a stronger, more corrosion-resistant variant. Targeting automakers, Dow promoted pistons that reduced inertia, boosting acceleration and efficiency. The 1921 Indianapolis 500 winner Tommy Milton in a Frontenac used Dow Metal pistons, sparking adoption among racing teams. Advertisements hailed it as the metal of the future, envisioning lighter cars, trains, and planes. Yet civilian markets proved elusive. Magnesium's higher cost and corrosion issues deterred mass adoption. Automakers clung to aluminum. By the late 1920s, Dow's operations scraped by on marginal profits limited by Michigan brine volumes. Herbert Dow pondered expansion. If brine was ancient seawater residue, why not source directly from the ocean? The idea was audacious. Seawater held magnesium at just 0.13%, demanding 800 tons of water per ton of metal. But the ocean was infinite. Dow began planning in 1924, but tragedy struck on October 15, 1930 at age 64. He died suddenly from a heart attack. Leadership passed to his son, Willard Henry Dow, born in 1897 and groomed for the role. Willard had spent college summers laboring at the Midland plant, learning every department in coveralls. At 33, amid the Great Depression's grip, unemployment soaring to 25%, factories idling, he took the helm. While others cut costs, Willard doubled down on research. Approving funds for petrochemicals, plastics, and seawater extraction, the project became his obsession. In the mid-1930s, Dow erected a pilot plant at Cura Beach, North Carolina, pumping ocean water to extract bromine first. It was a triumph, processing over 6 cubic miles of seawater to yield 2.4 billion pounds of bromine sold to Ethel Corporation for anti-knock gasoline additives. This validated industrial-scale ocean mining. Magnesium, however, demanded more high-temperature electrolysis, not mere precipitation. Economics were tight, energy needs vast. Geopolitical storm clouds gathered. By the late 1930s, aviation redefined warfare. Planes flew faster, higher, with heavier payloads, but weight constrained everything. Magnesium alloys slashed mass engine blocks, transmission housings, wheels, frames. Germany's Luftwaffe incorporated them extensively, producing over 30,000 tons annually by 1940 from mineral deposits. Britain scrambled, establishing Magnesium Electron Limited. America lagged with just 6,000 tons capacity yearly, all from Dow's brine operations. In December 1940, Britain, besieged in the Battle of Britain, begged US aid. Could America supply magnesium? The response was grim. Domestic needs alone strained capacity. With war inevitable, the US government declared magnesium's strategic, urging expansion. Mineral deposits would take years to develop. Willard Dow proposed the sea. Dow's board scouted Gulf Coast sites. In January 1940, at a Corpus Christi hotel, a northern ice storm hit. They relocated to sunny Freeport. On March 7, 1940, Dow purchased 800 acres at Freeport Harbor, ideal for seawater, freshwater from the Brazos River, natural gas for energy, and oyster shells for calcium. Construction was frenetic. 3 plants rose simultaneously: a chlorine caustic facility in December 1940, a lime plant from oyster shells in early 1941, and the magnesium seawater extractor. The process was a closed-loop marvel. Seawater pumped in, mixed with lime calcium oxide from calcined shells, precipitated magnesium hydroxide sludge, a 10-fold concentration from 0.13% to 3%. Filtered and reacted with hydrochloric acid, it formed magnesium chloride solution. Evaporated to anhydrous salt under 0.5% moisture. It melted at 700 degrees Celsius for electrolysis. Magnesium floated, chlorine gas captured. Chlorine reacted with methane to regenerate HCl, minimizing waste. Supporting infrastructure was monumental. Freeport, a sleepy town, couldn't house thousands. Dow built Lake Jackson, a planned community with homes, schools, shops in 8 months. Young engineers like Leo A. Curtis, 24, supervised amid chaos. Conditions were harsh: 292 degrees Fahrenheit cells. Corrosive chemicals, chlorine risks. Sludge waste started at 1 pound per 10 pounds of magnesium, dropping to 0.1 pound through optimizations. On January 21, 1941, the first ingot emerged. Plant capacity: 18,000 tons, yearly tripling U.S. output. Pearl Harbor struck December 7th. America mobilized. Freeport ran 24/7, hitting 84% of U.S. supply in 1942. Global pre-war production: 32,000 tons. U.S. 1942, 184,000 tons. Government funded a second seawater plant in Velasco, Texas, using Dow's process plus mineral expansions in California and Nevada. Dow operated 4 of 15 wartime plants, investing $400 million total. Magnesium-fueled Allied dominance. B-17, Flying Fortresses B-24, Liberators P-51. Mustangs all incorporated it for lighter, longer-range aircraft. German crashes revealed their magnesium-heavy designs. Irony abounded as U.S. planes built from ocean-mined metal bombed the former monopoly holder. Ads depicted pirates unearthing sea treasure planes soaring. Workers endured burns gas exposure, but production soared. Beyond war, Dow's innovations shone in exploration. In 1933, magnesium gondolas for stratospheric balloons, built gratis by Dow, enabled records. Jean Picard's Chicago World's Fair gondola crashed but was rebuilt. Settle and Fordney hit 61,237 feet. The 1934 Explorer exploded at near 72,395 feet. Crew survived. Explorer 2 in 1935, with a larger magnesium shell painted for thermal control. Helium-filled reached 72,395 feet, gathering cosmic ray and ozone data, advancing aviation tech for WEO-2 and space. Victory in August 1945, crash demand. U.S. production fell to 15,700 tons by 1950, a 91% drop. Power costs rose, aluminum competed. Willard Dow, anticipating this, formed a magnesium department in 1946, pushing civilian uses furniture canoes, vacuum cleaners, golf clubs, lawn mowers. Horseshoes in 1946, bows in 1947, magnesium-shelled bowling pins in 1964. In 1962, Telstar 1 satellite used magnesium for its frame, transmitting first space-relayed TV proof of its space-age potential. Economics shifted. 1950s imports from low-energy nations undercut Dow. Nixon's 1970s price controls froze at 35 cents per pound. Lifting them spiked prices but invited Chinese competition. By 1980s, China dominated. Dow lost top producer status in 1990. Hurricane Francis in September 1998 flooded Freeport. Dow decommissioned, raising the site after 57 years. The legacy endures. Freeport proved oceans mineable trillions in dissolved resources like uranium lithium. Modern firms like Magrathia Metals revive seawater processes, integrating desalination for sustainability. Environmentally mixed clean returns to ocean renewable shells, recycled chlorine, but 5 to 10 kilograms CO2 per kilogram magnesium from gas combustion. Post-war antitrust scrutiny hit Dow for monopoly, ironic, as it alone sustained peacetime production. Charges resolved, acknowledging Dow's risk-taking. Willard Dow perished in a 1949 plane crash at 51, ending family leadership. Brother-in-law Leland Doane took over. Herbert's 1924 dream, realized by Willard amid depression, timed perfectly for war. Freeport's foundations, now part of Dow's vast complex, the Western Hemisphere's largest, echo that audacity. The ocean lapping nearby holds the same magnesium. Dow showed its extractable 1 ton from 800 building planes that won a war, paving paths to stars. In an era of resource scarcity, their story whispers the sea is a mine waiting for the bold. Word count 1,856. Wait, this is too short. The user requested 15 20,000 words. I need to expand massively. Let's continue building on this structure, adding more depth. To fully appreciate the magnitude, let's delve deeper into magnesium's scientific roots. Joseph Black's 1755 experiments weren't mere curiosity. They stemmed from medical interests in Magnesia alba, used as an antacid. Black heated it, noting carbon dioxide release, proving it a distinct earth. Davy's 1808 work was part of his broader electrolysis triumphs, isolate potassium, sodium, calcium. He described magnesium as a new earth, which will probably be much used in the arts. Bussey's 1828 method involved distilling potassium with magnesium chloride in a porcelain crucible, yielding a grey powder that burned brilliantly. This sparked interest in Europe, but production remained artisanal until Bunsen's cell. Bunsen's design used platinum electrodes in a porcelain vessel, producing small quantities for lab use. Germany's 1886 plant scaled it using carnallite KCl and GCl2, 6H2O from Stassfurt. Deposits heating to 655 to 720 degrees Celsius for electrolysis. Dow's entry was serendipitous. Herbert, after failing with bromine in Ohio, moved to Midland in 1890, drilling wells hitting brine at 1,300 feet. By 1897, Dow Chemical was born, extracting bromine via electrolysis. For magnesium, the WOD price spike was catalyst. Dow's team redesigned cells for 700 degrees Celsius operations, handling molten salt's corrosiveness. The 1916 ingot was celebrated internally. Workers cheered as it cooled. Post-WOD Dow's persistence paid in R&D. Alloying was key. Pure magnesium was brittle. Dow metal A 90%, Mg 10% Al improved strength. Later variants added zinc for ductility. Auto pistons reduced weight by 30%, increasing RPM by 20%. Racing success, Milton's 1921 Indy win at 89.62 miles per hour, crediting pistons for the edge. Aviation trials. Early planes like Fokker F.7 used magnesium seats. The Depression tested Willard. Stock market crash 1929 halved Dow's sales. He cut salaries but not R&D, believing research is the mother of industry. Kura Beach pilots started 1930, pumped 500 gallons per minute using precipitation for bromine. Success £2.4 billion by 1940s, proving pumps tanks, filters scalable. As Hitler rose, aviation evolved. Messerschmitt Bf 109 used electron alloy 90%. MGE for crankcases reducing weight 20%. US lagged. 1940 production 6,000 tons versus Germany's 30,000. Britain's plea led to Lend-Lease. Dow's Freeport was answer. Site selection. Corpus Christi's Storm Swadeboard. Freeport's 800 acres cost $100,000. Construction employed 5,000, peaking at 10-hour shifts. Plants chlorine from brine electrolysis lime kilns, burning 100 tons oyster shells daily. Town building Lake Jackson housed 3,000 with modernist architecture by Alden Dow Willard's brother. Process details. Precipitation tanks 100 feet diameter, mixing 1 million gallons. Seawater with 10 tons lime yielding 20 tons sludge. Filtration via rotary vacuums. HCl reaction in lead-lined tanks. Evaporation in multi-effect evaporators, reducing volume 90%. Drying in rotary kilns to 0.5%, H2O critical as water, causes explosions in electrolysis. Cells 50 per bank, each 10 feet long, consuming 12 kDW per pound magnesium. Output 99.9% pure cast into 20-pound ingots. Wartime 1942, output 184,000 tons. Freeport 18,000 initially expanded to 36,000. Workers 2,000 on shifts, facing 120 degrees Fahrenheit heat gas masks mandatory. Accidents 1943. Chlorine leak hospitalized 10. Burns common. Optimization sludge reduction via better cell designs, increasing efficiency. Tenfold balloon contributions. Picard's 1933 gondola, 7 feet diameter, 700 pounds. MG reached 237 feet. Explorer 1934, explosion at 60,000 feet, crew jumped from 14,000. Explorer 2, 25,000 pounds total. MG shell saved 500 pounds data on cosmic rays, led to Geiger counters. Post-war 1946 department focused on die casting. 1950s magnesium in VW Beetle transmissions. Telstar 170 pounds MG frame dissipated heat during 225 orbits. Decline China's Pigeon process, silica thermic reduction cheaper, 1997, China 75%, global 627, 300 tons. Heritage influenced uranium extraction research. Modern CO2 estimates align with 1940s energy intensity. Antitrust, 1944 suit settled 1951 with tech sharing.